G'day folks, welcome to this first live play of Baptism by Fire. This is, I think, the second title in the Battalion combat series. I've got last Blitzkrieg sitting still in shrink just over here, but I wanted to get started with this one because of the relatively low counter density, nice open scenarios to get started with and learn the system basically. So this is my very first foray into BCS. Yeah, been studying the rules and we're about to kick things off. To set the scene for you, it is the 14th of February 1943 and the Germans, you can see along here, are about to launch a counterattack through here. You've got sort of Americans spread into two combat commands, Combat Command A, Combat Command C up here in this scenario. And the Germans need to capture 3 objectives in the south here, ending in Spatler over here, and then 1 of 4 objectives up in the north, which is off camera. So 4 German camp groups come onto the map in two over here and their buddies, and 2 down here and their buddies. And what that basically means is they don't have to worry about so-called crossing the stream in terms of supply. Their supply paths can cross over each other. Weather is fixed at no rain, so that's good, don't have to worry about that. What else? Let's have a look. Special rules for, if you've played BCS before, special rules for this title are that, a very important rule, that there are certain buddies that are listed. No US or Italian AV unit can go into support. German and British non-dual AV units can be put into support of their formations. So that's a pretty good introduction because I don't have to worry about setting up all these American AV units as supports, basically. Makes things a bit easier for learning the game. A little bit easier. Germans will still have their supports, but the Americans don't have to worry. When I say don't have to worry about it, it's not a good thing that they can't do that, but it certainly makes it easier to learn. Got a lot of play guides here ready to go. We'll start off with the pre-turn phase. Weather determination, as I said, don't worry about this on the first turn. In terms of air points, let me just double check. There is a list of things that doesn't happen on the first turn. We don't roll for replacements, so there's no assignment phase. Roll for weather and air points normally, if not predetermined. And I'll just double check the scenario. This is the scenario we're running through here. Operation Spring Wind. It is a 4-turn scenario. First player is Axis. I've got the supply sources pretty easily. Hey Chris. Yeah, I did a quick overview earlier today. And there's some other great videos by Chewy Matt as well. And I want to thank Chewy Matt for his really good introduction to the series. Other reinforcements, I can't see anywhere it says any other rules about air, so I'm assuming they roll for air normally. And the allies, let's say white die for allies, red for Axis. The allies get 1 die -2, so white for allies, red for Axis. If less than 0, use 0. So no air points for the allies, 4 air points for the Axis. So let me find these air points. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these, I believe, serve the same function as artillery barrages, but with a bit more flexibility. And we don't roll for air points on rain turns. It is not a rain turn. Okay, as I said, we don't apply replacements, we prepare our reinforcements. I think that just means sort of get them in the hex, ready to go. I'm going to be doing a lot of rules checking, as I said, this is the very first time. So roll for air points, place reinforcements on the order of arrival charts into the listed entry locations. That's pretty much where they are along here. I don't know if you can see there's 2 camp groups down the bottom here. So they're sort of in their entry location. So basically they're kind of placed on the road here, ready to go. Now we would normally do an assignment phase. This is where we would attach our support. There's no assignment phase in the first turn. I'm not playing with orders. First player is the axis that's already been determined. Normally you'd sort of make a first player determination. So now we can begin with the activation phase. And, well, it's just all these units are basically placed in this hex. Okay, so there's a choice here. Two camp groups, pretty similar, but camp group Rhyme has a slightly, well, they're tigers basically. And, okay, let me explain to you the plan. What is the German plan? They have, as I see it, two main choices. They can move towards City Buzid, which is kind of what they did historically. They focused their attention here, took them a couple of days to clear that out, and they drove to the northwest. So Rhyme could come down here along these roads, attack here, try to capture it. Second option is they could drive straight along this road. There's a scattering of American armour and mechanised units relatively weak on this road. There's also the CCA combat train. And if they can sort of capture this hex, it pushes the combat train back. It'll then push CCA out of their supply, basically. It'll disrupt their main supply route, their MSR, which will cause them a heavy penalty on their snafu roll, which will seriously inhibit their ability to reach full activation. Because of that, the ability to just kind of basically hamstring CCA, if I can dislocate that, that's kind of what I'm thinking is our main plan. Drive through with camp group Rhyme, and then send, well, there's three other camp groups that can mop up the sort of rear. Ideally, I want to drive west as fast as possible because on the record check, you can see there are some American and Allied and French and British reinforcements coming in. So I want to drive west as quickly as possible. That's my plan. Drive along this road, kick out this combat train, disrupt the supply path, hamstring Allied ability to do anything. Okay. So, again, I get two choices here. I like the ability to use these tigers to clear these roads. Basically, what you're looking at here, as they come along this road, and I did summarise this in the overview video, but this is basically the sheet that I'm really referring to a lot. They are going to be doing an engagement. This does not require an objective marker. It will basically compare their AV value plus the action rating, in this case 9. And let me know if you can't see that very well. I can zoom in a bit. All right, so we'll compare their 9 versus the Allied 5. So they'll basically get a +4 modifier, I think, to this engagement roll, which is on this sheet. Okay, the target will be a real AV +4. I think it's guaranteed of causing a step loss, basically. As you're rolling 2d6, guaranteed to cause a step loss. It's only a one-step unit which will eliminate it, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking there. I'll zoom back out for you. And yeah, let me know if you can't see these clearly, and I'll move the camera around. Okay, so that's why I'm picking Kampf Group Rhyme. There is this other Kampf group. They have some armoured units here. They have a total of 7, so they'll give a +2 modifier, but it's not exactly guaranteed. Okay, this guy basically guarantees that this is going to be a success, I think. So let me get started and we'll see how things go. We push all these guys into here. They are fresh as well. This is their fatigue level. Fresh gives them a +1 modifier, which I'll demonstrate in just a moment. So the very first thing we do is we make a preparation. Basically, the MSR is complete. I'm not making prepared defences. They're not mixed. There's no other sort of formations in their way. Not making a recovery activation. I am making basically a snafu roll. And for that, I look, charts everywhere, at the snafu table modifier. They have fresh fatigue, so it's going to be +1. No coordination, no negative fatigue, no mixed formation. Game-specific snafu is +1, as indicated on the turn track. You can probably see that way at the top here. +1 for the axis on the first turn, so it's now +2. The MSR is complete. I'm not sure this counts. I don't think it is an optimal distance because the headquarters and the combat trains are in the same hex. I think optimal means between 5 and 15, so that doesn't apply. No ghost trains, not crossing the streams, not using tracks. They're on a secondary road. These are secondary roads and these are tracks. We're not using the tracks. So it's basically a +2 modifier. Die rolling tray, and here we go. Jumped out of the tray. A 10 + 2 is 12. That gives me a rule that optimal distance can include trains. Thanks for that. Thank you, Chris. So Chris is saying there's a... Okay, and David's saying the same thing. So there's a rule that optimal distance, this is page 17. If combat trains are in an entry hex and the headquarters, I've even highlighted this, and the headquarters is not more than 15 hexes away. Excellent, so it's +3, thanks for that. I wouldn't have noticed that. So they have their full activation, which, as summarised here, gives them 2 objective markers. I was playing around with these earlier. What have I done with them all? There we are. 2 objective markers. Full movement, voluntary retreat, flipping counter sides. All right, I'll bring that down a bit. Artillery barrage, airport barrage, all combat is allowed. They can make a prepared defence. They can return drop support. They can screen if they want. Not much of that will apply. The main thing is 2 objectives now. As I said, I think it's guaranteed a step loss here, so I don't need to place an objective marker here. You don't need objective markers for engagements. I might, however, place an objective marker here. So basically the plan is to drive through here, hit these guys, continue driving on. So this is going to be an objective. They've got 6 steps here. And I think this is pretty modest. I'm just wondering how much further should I push, but if I put a double objective there, basically putting 2 objective markers, putting both my objective markers in the same hex, will give me a double objective zone modifier for any combat that results in that hex, that area. So objectives have been placed. Now we get to activate the formation. And as I said, we've got these tigers. They are using tactical movement and they're coming, rolling down this secondary road. So they go 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to use this little marker to sort of note their movement. At this point, they have their first fire event. So they have, this is a TAC AV unit. The red number here, again, I'll zoom in for you. All right. So the red number on the left here indicates it's an AV unit. And a red AV unit means that there is, I think, what's called a compulsory engagement for these armoured units. This is the bit that's kind of new for me, a stopping engagement. Okay, so whilst moving into armoured vehicle, EZOCs requires your unit to stop. Winning a stopping engagement could allow it to break free and thus waive the stop so that it can keep moving. To waive a stop, it's waived if the unit providing the enemy zone of control is destroyed, and that's what I'm aiming to do. So they have moved 3 points. They're about to use their first engagement. I look at the engagement table. It is not a double objective zone, not limited AV. They're not a prepared defence, blah, blah, blah. Basically, the base is each side's AV plus their action rating. And as I went through before, we're basically looking at the defenders have 2 plus 3 for 5. The attackers have 4 plus 5 for 9. 9 minus 5 is 4. So my understanding there is it's a plus 4 net modifier. There are no other modifiers there. The target is, let's look at this chart, the target here is a real AV. I roll the dice. A roll of 10 plus 4 is 9 or more. The target takes a loss and retreats. It is a one-step unit, as you can see by the yellow number up the top there. So they're eliminated. Okay. Now, my understanding is there is no advance after combat after an engagement. I'm going to double check that. There's often advance after combat for sort of regular combat, but not for engagements. Well, I can't find the rules, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. All right, so they've cleared that hex. 3 movements done. They've got 14. Just go to the backside. So if we flip them over, they're even stronger. So they'll keep marching. 4, 3, 4, 5. I'll zoom out a bit so you can see what else is going on. Hey, Blue. Hey, Mark. Where are we up to? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and a half. So 8.5, and now they're about to do their second fire engagement. Now when a unit performs or completes its second fire engagement, it is then stopped, and there's no avoiding this. They're going to be stopped. So here they go, about to do a second fire engagement against this unit, and they're, okay, so they're even more vulnerable. It is sort of like a motorized, mechanized infantry task force under Kern, 6 steps, but only 3 combined AV and action rating. So we're looking here at 9 minus 3 is a plus 6 modifier for this second engagement. Excuse the sort of paper flying around. I've just got these charts everywhere. Okay. So again, it is in fact a double objective zone now. So we get the +1 modifier for this. So what I say, 9 minus 3 is 6, plus 6 plus 7 for that. No other modifiers apply, so +7. A roll of 5 is off the charts. It's 9 or more, a target loss and a retreat. So they take a loss. They're down to, 5 steps, and they retreat. And when a unit retreats, they retreat 3 hexes, 1, 2, 3. When a combat train retreats, it retreats 10 hexes along that MSR, the main supply route, back towards the supply source, which is the blue marker way off the map over here. So they're going to go one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 back to there, and I believe they've retreated, so they become on their ghost side. The trains don't retreat now, retreats from the unit. Oh, okay, thanks, David. So technically, they don't retreat as part of the retreat. They retreat when the Tigers enter the hex. So the Tigers don't advance after combat, of course. The trains remain there. That's the end of combat. Still got the objective markers there. Point the arrow there. The Tiger can continue. It's now up to 9 movement points when it enters his hex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, I think that train should now be to its ghost side. And the unit retreat has to be towards its headquarters. Thanks, David. So 1, 2, 3. That is interesting. I wasn't paying attention to that in the retreat rules either. So away from local enemy units, free from enemy zones of control, containing a permissible terrain type, better suited for defence, closer to the unit's HQ. You're right. Jeez. So David's just saying that the Tiger can't advance as it is. It was an engagement and its second fire engagement, so it must stop, which means the train is still there for now. For now, not for long. We now look at the next unit here. We've got some Motorized Infantry, or this is sort of like these Marder 3s. I don't know what that MDR is. I'm sure it's summarised in the rulebook. Marder, yep. Okay, so so they're a support that I can attach. Let's get these guys. They are using trucks on this secondary road, and that gives them a quarter movement point per hex. So 1. Actually, let me think about this. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, and into the objective hex. Now, if I'm doing this correctly, they then retreat. This is the third time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So combat trains can't be attacked. They don't participate in combat. They just kind of sit there without any sort of combat factors. But when an enemy unit enters their hex, if I've done this correctly, they retreat 10 hexes, not movement points, 10 hexes towards the supply path. Thank you, David. Really appreciate it. Does the train get lifted off the map until your next turn? It will. It will be lifted off if that MSR will be broken. Well, we'll see what happens with CCA, but I'm pretty sure the MSR will be broken. And then if that is broken, then I think they get removed from the map. Then I think they suffer that 1-turn penalty for having no train on the map. It's a -3 modifier to their snafu roll. And then it can come back on, I think. I'll need to work through that. Okay, so now we've got these guys. And I can zoom along that road and hang about there as well. And then we can bring our headquarters along, also using truck movement. They can rush along here. It may as well enter that hex, I think, as well. And this is a bit where I'm a bit uncertain about the movement of these combat trains. It's something I should have double checked. Because I'm not sure how exactly, page 24, combat trains, how exactly they move, I think. Okay, so combat trains, which are currently legal, move simply by placing them in any desired legal hex that also creates an MSR. They don't move, just, David's saying, yep, just put the trains wherever you like, but forming a legal MSR. So I can put them, for example, here. My concern is, it's a bit of a vulnerable location. I wonder, even if I rush them all the way up to here, okay, so my thinking here is it's protected. It's not optimal anymore, so I don't get that +1, but at least it stops them being jumped. They've moved, they'll have moved, of course, so they should become... This is the kind of aspect of the game that I sort of read the rules, I sort of grasp everything, but it's what to do and where to place these trains. So combat trains which move must flip to their go side. If they end outside optimal distance, they must flip. They're flipping anyway because they've moved. I think that's okay. And if I put them back here, my concern is just this potential for an allied counterattack to hit this exposed train and force them to retreat even further and become even further out from... Yeah, so Mark's saying there'll be ghosts. I'm not playing the hard and soft jump rule, Mark. I've kind of quickly read about it. I thought, always good to... Okay, so David's saying get the optimal bonus. All right, I'll take your advice, David. I'll put them on... So, yep, okay, you're both saying it. I'll put the train here on this crossroad to get that optimal bonus. And I'll blame you guys when the Americans jump that train. Okay, so that is the activation, or the activity is complete. Now we do cleanup. I first remove the objectives. There are no dropped support markers. If combat trains are not optimal distance, flip them to ghost. Okay, that's all right. Fatigue now. So now I get to make a fatigue roll. And all I did was an engagement. And I think that's just a 1 or a 2, but I'm trying to find the fatigue table. Fatigue table. Where is the fatigue increase table? Here we are. So I did an engagement. So on a D6 roll of 1 to 2, I'll increase the fatigue of that formation. A 6, they are not any further fatigued, so I think they're still fresh, I guess, which is nice. Now I get to roll. I'll check for isolation first. They're all quite in this area basically. Hey Lynn, welcome. So still on the first, for those joining, still on the very first formation activation. They've cleared the road basically, killed off this one-step American armoured company and knocked this mechanised infantry off the road, causing a step loss, forcing them to retreat towards their headquarters. And so I check for isolation. They're all within command. We check for second activation. So I rotate the headquarters to done. And I roll to reactivate. They are fresh, so I get a +1 modifier, and I will double check the rules on this as well. But I think that would mean I'd need a 3 or more. So where are the rules for this? Assign activations. Maybe page 14. Let's double check that. Second activations. Roll 1 die, add 1 if it's fresh. If it's greater than or equal to the activation roll, it activates. Okay, so I need a D6 roll of 4, but with a +1 modifier, it stays with 3 or more. Yep. 6, they get a second activation. Okay, so the Germans roll on. With the second activation, basically, you return to the preparation phase up here. So, the MSR is complete. I remove any blocked markers, create, maintain defences. When do I flip back the train if it's ghost side? Is this part of the preparation phase? Preparation. Because I did move that train. Oh, so when it does move in the whole turn. Okay. So it's still ghosted. So there'll be it will flip back to normal. Okay. In that case, make a snafu roll. So let's double check my snafu modifiers. So they are still fresh. Game specific is still +1. Optimal distance, thank you, +3. Ghosted though, so -1. So it's a +2 net modifier. And again, we need 7 for a full activation. And 9 gives us a full activation. We get our 2 objective markers back. And off in the distance, I can see an undefended Spatler, our second objective. I can place a CTS anywhere that is legal. Cool. Objectives, okay. So I'm just sort of pondering. I mean, these trucked units, let's say these guys, they can reach. Let me just take you. Yeah, I'm thinking that as well, because it's an objective X. David just pointed out, I'm mindful that if I want to capture Svatler, I'll need to put an objective marker there. But I'm kind of thinking, these are the objective X's way up north. I can actually reach this VC location with, I mean, it's probably really, really ridiculous, right? To be pushing that far out, and then having this really vulnerable, overstretched supply link. With CCA on my southern flank and then CCC on my northern flank. I'm definitely going to think about taking Spatler, but I'm also eyeing off these northern objectives. I can reach them with, let's say, this unit. I can reach them with most of these units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I could put my headquarters here. That would supply my most advanced units. I could be at the, what is this called? The Spieber Gap and Spieber by the end of this turn. Sorry, it's way off camera to the north. But this is how fast these trucked units can move. I could send my infantry all the way up to that gap, all the way up there. And I'm just thinking, let's have a look. Yeah, well, I could bring my headquarters into command range. Do I be I think as just as a, because I'm learning here, I'm going to be super insane and put an objective here and an objective up at the Spieber Gap up here. You can see this objective marker way up there. We're going to just keep driving, basically, and we'll worry about supplies later on. And we'll worry about how to maintain our supply lines later on. We'll leave that to the other camp groups. Let the other Germans worry about getting our supplies in. Our objective, or at least Kampf Group Flamm's objective, is to drive on. I've got the offensive mentality, offensive command mentality. Don't worry about supplies. Do what you got to do, and let someone else worry about getting the supplies here. What's the worst that can happen? I say. Famous last words. Okay, so objective markers have been placed. 1, 2. 1, 2. It's insane. Let's see how they do this. So I have got these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mark's pointing something out. You need to be at the headquarters at the right time as your units. You need to be in command range at the end of their activation. Yep, headquarters can move as well. They can move basically 12. They're trucked. They're going to move up here as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll put a little marker to remind me of that as I enter this hex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now there's an objective marker there on this VP hex, or victory condition hex, so they can move into there. You require this again, this objective marker, to move into a VP hex. They've moved 8, 9, 10. Do I have any 10 markers? They're at 10. And these guys now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they're off the map. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Then these trucks can go, well, I know it's 7 to there. 8, 9, 10, and they've captured Spieber Gap. That's way, I hope you can see that, it's way up the top there. It's hard enough for me to see. So now the Tigers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so someone's going to be out of supply. It'll be the infantry. Now these trucks can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'll sit in, yes, I've sent the infantry just, I was miscalculated a little bit. The infantry are going to be out of range and they'll suffer some isolation attrition. And then I'll bring up the, in fact, I'll push them, up there to the Oasis. Yeah. And bring my combat trains up to there. That's probably a little crazy, but yeah, okay, we'll see. I could have held the infantry back just a little bit, but, well, it's been done. Damn it. Thanks, David. So where are these reinforcements coming on? I should have looked at that more carefully. But there's no US there's no American reinforcements. Oh, they can CCA can retake it. We'll see what happens. That's, as I said, that's for the other camp groups to deal with. So, clean up. We can remove these objective markers. We can roll for fatigue, and again, no engagements this turn. No combat objectives. So, if none apply, there is no roll. So there were no combat objectives. Oh, it's a second activation, of course. So fatigue 1 to 2. Yep. They increase their fatigue to fatigue 0. And they are done. All right, now, of course I forgot, I skipped isolation. Apply isolation losses. Okay, so the SUC has a safe path, is outside command radius, but the MSR is not blocked, so they suffer a 1-step loss at the cost of taking the speed gap. Worth it? I don't know. We'll see soon enough. It's at the end of the unit's move. Oh, okay. So you check when the unit finishes its activation, it must be in command range at that moment. What's that? What is that for, Mark? Sorry, maybe I'm missing. I'm a bit confused by that. Units must be in command range, command radius at the end of their movement. Or what happens? So what's the order here? So I'm just looking at the, you cannot leave a unit out of command voluntarily. Okay, so does that, so I may need to double check and reread that rule section. What if I don't have a choice, basically? So you move units, basically, they strive for their objectives. The objectives can be placed out of command radius, which is what I did. I moved this unit away from headquarters. I cannot get the headquarters because of what I've done and the limitations of movement. I can't get that headquarters, which is here, into a position where it can put both formation. Actually, sorry, that should be, that's hard. Oh, it's a good command radius of 8. So they are in command. They're in command anyway. They don't suffer that isolation. I thought there was a command radius of 5 for some reason. So they don't suffer that isolation attrition. You have to check how further the units can advance before moving. Okay, so I can't, but in effect, so, okay, I really need to double check this. Could I, in theory, have moved the headquarters first to this location? I admit to being very confused by this. Move the headquarters first. So if I move the headquarters first, it creates a new command radius up here, which enables all these other units of the formation to move towards that headquarters. But if I understand you correctly, you can't voluntarily move out of that command radius. So I could have, so the idea of setting, because I remember reading about you can set objectives outside the command radius, what I did there. So the idea there would be to move the headquarters up to enable those attacks to take place within that new command radius. You can't then advance if the headquarters can't then move in a position to put the units. Okay, so you're just not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to voluntarily put units out of command. Okay, so double checking that command. I don't know why I thought it was 5, but it's actually a command radius of 8. So they're all in command anyway, so it's all okay because of that command radius of 8. If it was 5, that would have been an illegal move. The infantry would have had to pull back a bit. All good. No attrition because they are within command radius. That's the end of the first German activation. We can then look to see how terrible this move was via the first Allied activation. And they've got all these units down here. It's hard to set the camera up to capture all this. All right, so look, I've got CCC up here, CCA here. I think I'll move CCA because they're right on this main road here, and they've got to pull back. So let's start off by identifying the active formation. These guys down here. Here's their headquarters. Their combat trains are okay. So their combat trains have retreated off map. So we add this main supply route blocked, MSR blocked 1. The combat trains have already been removed. Now they make their snafu roll, and it's not going to be as generous as the Germans. Okay, so snafu 4. It's American activation. Here we are. They have fatigue level -1. Game specific snafu for the Americans is always +0. It is MSR is not complete. Trains are off map. -3. -1 as well. I think because they were forced off map, I think I applied both. So -4, -5, I think. The trains retreated off map. The MSR is blocked. -1 up here. -5 to their die roll 4. Snafu. And a roll of 7. That gives him a roll of 2. That is a fail. Which is going to be tough. They're not going to be able to do anything. Can't find another. Well, the combat trains. Okay, well, this is important because that additional modifier could change things. The combat train retreated off the map, so technically the map kind of cuts off here. What happens if a combat train is forced off the map? Does it matter? Yeah, if no such hex is possible, the combat trains are sent off map. the tracks give you supply. I'm just concerned. I thought maybe I'm misunderstanding the supply route. I thought you had to draw supply. I thought the MSR, so the main supply route, 16. Okay, getting my head around this. So a continuous series of legal hexes that connect the headquarters through its combat trains to a supply source. But if the combat trains, hey IG, why? If the combat trains are off map, I didn't think they could be a supply route, basically. A HQ can only use its own combat trains to establish a complete MSR. It can't do so if the combat trains are off map. That's kind of what I'm fixated on. And because it starts off map, I know in the larger scenario, it would continue down that path, but in this scenario, this is the supply path. This is basically technically the edge of the map. So that train technically goes off map. I'll double check the scenario specific rules. Can't see anything. Yeah, there's not a lot here. 2A. So I think, yeah, the way I'm treating this is they retreated off map. Because they're off map, in this scenario, there's no MSR, so it's a -3 plus a -1 for MSR blocked, which is a fail. Yeah, hey AGY, most of the units, they're sort of some battalions, a couple of small companies, various, in this title, various sort of task forces. Most of these are battalions. Yep. So I think if this particular scenario used the full map, that combat train would probably follow this road further away. This is the blue marker to show the kind of edge of the map and the supply path. The maps, I've laid them over quite nicely. It's hard to see the line. Where is it? Yeah, it's this line down here. So the map, the train would retreat, and you might get a sort of long path. But I don't think it's the case in this sort of restricted scenario. So they fail their snafu. What can they do? They can set up a prepared defense, enter screen. I can do this, what's it called? Failure flip activation. So for any failure flip activation, remove coordination marker, flip ghost trains, remove drop support, reduce fatigue by 1 level. I'm going to reduce those down to a 0. Apply isolation effects. The only guys I'm worried about are these guys over here. I can put my combat trains back on. When does that happen? Move during the activities phase. Okay, cool. Do I still do that though if I'm doing a recovery flip activation? So if I don't do the recovery flip activation, do I get to place my combat trains instead? Is that the idea? So if I fail, I can still move my combat trains. You guys are saying I can put the trains back on. Combat trains tick. Okay. Yeah, I'm checking this. I'm just not sure. So it says movement. Combat trains tick, but under the fail flip procedure, snafu, decide on a failure flip, and if I do this, I skip the activities phase where I'll do movement. So I'm just wondering here, does that mean if I do the failure flip, I proceed straight to step J, and thus I don't do the activities, I can't move the combat trains? You can always move combat, okay, David's saying I can always move combat trains. All right, in that case, I'll do the failure flip. I'll put them back down to fatigue 0. And now I'll bring this combat train back on. But maybe supply source is coming in here. I might put them on the tracks. Maybe even in a slightly bit of a protected area so they don't get jumped again. So I can, yeah, it gives me some options at least. The trains can only be located in a secondary road. I did not read that. Geez, David, it's good to go here. Okay, I'm worried they're going to get jumped again. It's going to happen, isn't it? I could, wherever I put them, they're in trouble. If I put them here, the next camp group along here is going to clear it out. If I put them down here, the camp group's moving up the south. Okay, tracks can be used from the combat train. That's right, I do recall reading that. That was very early in the rulebook. All right, let's, oh God, this is going to be jumped, I know. Let's put it back in Kearns Crossroad. So these guys are like, hey, it's safe again. Let's go back here. They've moved. So they go on the ghost side, of course. But I guarantee you, these guys are going to have something to say about that. They're all glary at the moment, but I guarantee you, they're not going to let this combat train sit here unmolested. Okay. Now, that's it. Move to step J. Now, isolation effects, there is this reconnaissance unit way down here. Not valid? You cannot track. In that case, that's right, you can't move through enemy-controlled VP hexes. There is another supply point somewhere down here. That little blue marker off in the bottom left. I'll double check that. So, what is that point? Supply, supply, supply. I think it's here. I think it's under map. I've placed map B under map A and I can't see the supply point, but I think it's over here, so they can use this road and then along the tracks here out to the west. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away on the road, ghosted. Okay, so now we switch around back to the Germans and we've got this next camp group coming on. And I think technically I should have placed these in the hex at the start, but they're there. And what are they going to do? I think it's these guys' job to look. So there's no Allied reinforcements coming this turn. Thanks, David. I really appreciate it. So yeah, no Allied reinforcements coming on this turn. No Allied reinforcements coming on the second turn. They will be coming on the third turn. And they come in at entry areas B, C, or D, which are, where are they? Way off in the west, basically. Whew, okay. So, I think it's this task force's job to hold on to these victory point locations somehow. So they are going to basically race ahead to Svetla. It's already well. Let's start at the beginning. Of course, they make their preparation. A snafu roll. They are fresh, so +1. Game specific is +1. It is optimal distance, so +1, so they get a +3 modifier. They roll 12, so they get a full activation. They get 2 objectives. I mean, they could sort of divert and attack these guys. There's infantry up here. But I really want to grab hold of Svetla way up here in the sort of northwest. So I think, again, passing the buck on to the other southern camp groups to deal with CCA. We've got CCC activating next, and I'm worried about them coming down this road and seizing this VP objective. So, because it's a friendly VC hex, I don't know if I need to place the objective markers there. I might. Page 18, objective marker placement. Yeah, okay, you need an objective marker to move into an uncontrolled VP hex. It is not uncontrolled, I control it, so I don't need it to move there. Let's do it there anyway, and we can race up this road. Oh, they're not going to be able to reach it the whole way, are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They can get as far as there. 15, 16, they can get as far as there. These guys can make it, the pioneers, all the way. And the headquarters can make it all the way. And my trains can sit up just there. Yeah, you don't have, okay, cool. So the objective markers don't have to be placed, Mark's saying, if they're kind of redundant, which they kind of are in this case because there'll be no combat for this formation. So they're just securing the area around Svetla. I don't have much there. So we've got our first formation way up in the north. It's really kind of hard to capture all this on camera, but how's that for a bit of view? First formation up here, second formation here. They don't have, they're buddied, so they don't have to worry about crossing the stream, I think it's called. Okay, so moving without objective markers make you fatigue. Yeah, okay, cool. Now I could roll for a second activation here, and I'm thinking I might, because that would just let me block this road here, basically, where the CCC will be coming down. So I've got these guys on Highway 13, and I could put these guys on this road here to delay, I guess, that a potential American counterattack on Spaler if I get that second if I get the second activation. What was I going to check? I was just going to check the rules for flipping countersides. So basically, for those who aren't aware, units have two sides. So I use these pioneers on their movement side, where they have 12 truck movement to get into Spatler, but you can see they don't have that assault capability. If I flip them over, they get that assault capability and a higher action point rating. It's done at the beginning of an activation. Thanks, Mark. Saves me looking for it. I'll put that fresh marker just off to the side. In that case then, let me roll for a second activation. Sorry, before I do that, clean up, remove objective markers, traffic, ghost train, that should have been flipped, sorry. Fatigue. So no combat objectives, no engagement, no fatigue roll for that first activation. But as I said, they are going to make no isolation. They are going to make an attempt at a second activation. I rotate the headquarters to their done side. I roll to reactivate. They're still fresh, so that's +1, so I need a 3 or more. They succeed. So I get a second activation. They again prepare. They make a snafu roll. It is different now. They are still fresh, +1. Game specific, +1. Optimal distance, +1, but minus the ghost train, -1. So +2 net. A roll of 11 will give them a full activation. Doesn't really matter because they're not doing a great deal. All I'm doing is flipping those guys over to a better defensive posture and sending these guys, actually flipping these guys as well. Doesn't change. That's interesting. They don't really change at all, they just get less movement. They go from assault rated 4 action points, 16 tactical movement, to assault for 4 tactical movements. I don't know why they'd ever want to be, what's the advantage of getting out of their vehicles? I don't know. They are just going to move around to this road here. Hold that crossroad, delay the American advance. These guys will hold this position here, 2-5. They will actually flip over to a better combat orientation and stay where they are. Now, of course, that was a second activation, so we roll for fatigue, and this was, as I said, their second activation, so they increase fatigue on a 1 or a 2, no fatigue increase, and we can continue play. And now we've got CCC activating up in the north, up around here. Sorry, flip our headquarters over to done. I think that's what we do. Flip trains to normal. Oh, okay, so if I don't move this train during the second activation, they can flip back to normal. Cool. I'm not sure if that happens during preparation. I'll double check that as well later on. Okay, so CCC, all the way up here. Let's see, headquarters, command range of 5. I've got all this artillery and air support as well, which I can use. The Germans have this air support, just to mark this. 2 camp groups coming in from the south. They're going to use it later. Okay, so let's check their MSR. It comes down here. From here, though, they kind of have to use tracks to make their way to their supply route. I don't think there's a problem with that. It's a really long MSR, but it's an MSR nonetheless. I think this is the most important thing. So trying to wrap my head around what combat trains do. They're kind of a short-term supply link between headquarters and the combat trains. From here, though, the supply path, as David Marker pointed out, can go onto tracks and zigzag as far as you want. Can't go through enemy VPs, but can go around them to a supply route way up in the north. So that is weird, but legal. So the MSR is complete. It's not blocked. They're not preparing defences because they want to get moving basically and move back towards, well, yeah, I think they want to come back and converge towards Spatler. So they make a snafu roll. They are fatigue 0, so that's all right. Game specific snafu is 0, so that's okay. The MSR is complete and at optimal distance, so it's actually a +1 modifier. Oh, Jesus. Lucky it's a +1. Lucky it's at optimal distance. Lucky there's nothing else, because that just gives them barely enough for, with a +1 modifier, for the partial snafu. This gives them 1 objective marker, only half movement allowance. I don't even know if they can reach it. So here they all are. They're all based up here in Hajab el Aoun. The trucked, sorry, the attack as well, 16. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're not going to be able to move it, make it. Jeez. So, yeah, not going to worry about that objective. They're just going to get moving, basically. As I said, half movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They move 7. They can move up to there. The combat train will stay where it is. I don't really need to use those. Yeah, that's about it for their first activation. Hey Mike, yeah, oh look, this is, it's a fascinating series. I'm really enjoying kind of getting to grips with it. It's just so different to anything I've ever played. Closest, of course, is OCS. So if you've played OCS, you've got a similar mindset in terms of what you're trying to do, your supply paths and the practicalities of offensive. But I haven't played OCS in years, so it's nice to get back in that kind of mentality. It just changes the way you think about things. It's not just about moving forces up, looking at their attack value and trying to get a good CRT ratio. It's about looking at so many things. Yeah. The paths you're taking, the routes. I'm probably making some totally terrible tactical decisions here, but doing some crazy things to push my understanding, I guess. Because I think it's those edge cases that help us grasp these systems. What happens when you push beyond boundaries? What happens when your supplies break down? What happens when your combat trains are pushed off map? what happens when you fail your snafu? What happens when you get a partial snafu? I think I've seen it all now. So yeah, that is their first activation, a partial activation. They do clean up, no objectives, no fatigue roll because they didn't do anything, no isolation because they're all together, command range of 5. They will roll, however, for a second activation. So I'll rotate these around to their done side. I will check the table for the second. Oh no, not a table. It's just a die roll, and they need 5 or more to get a second activation. Oh, they do get a second activation. Okay, lucky. They now prepare. Their combat train hasn't moved. MSR is complete. They make a snafu roll. Now, they are 0 fatigue, game specific 0, optimal distance +1. All right, so it's a +1 modifier. Hey, they get a full activation. So they now get 2 objective markers. And I'm wondering about the practicalities. So this is going to be interesting. This is not an AV ZOC, which means that these guys can basically go right around it and march straight on Spatler. Now I'm starting to wrap my head around. So we've seen engagements. Now we're looking at sort of attack by fire. What we have here is the potential for an AV unit to attack a stack without an AV unit. It requires an objective. Must be adjacent. I can draw on my artillery here. So I might put an objective marker here and then an objective marker here, hoping that that first attack kind of goes well, and then I can move on Spatler. That's kind of what the rationale for doing it this way. All right. And I think, these what do they got on the reverse side? Foot. 1, 2, 1, 2 doesn't really change anything either. These are 2, 2, 3, 2, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if I flip them over, they get 1 extra rating, but then okay, so now I need to think about the advantages of an attack by fire. If I do, let's see this unit here, they're in the clear. So if I do an attack by fire, I'd use this column here, and it would cause basically step losses. I could do 2 attacks by fire. I could draw on my artillery to do a destruction barrage, which would be basically arty, this column here. There's nothing going for these guys, so they're just going to be none of the above. 3 to 6 for arty, 4 to 6 for my attacks by fire. But really what I want to do is clear them off the road. Or maybe, alternatively, I just throw everything at this hex and move in to attack it. To clear that road. They don't have any support as far as I'm aware. Move up, drop the support. Yeah, there's no support attached to these guys. Is that what you mean? Okay, so if I stop adjacent. So if I move these guys up first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a 6-step unit, so it's going to be hard to budge these guys. So that's 5 to there. Then I can do an attack by fire, because this is an armor value unit versus a non-armor value stack. So yeah, I can do two. Mark's saying I can do 2 attacks by fire. I'll do that. So the first fire event, basically, it's unit out in the open. They'll hit on a 4 to 6. I'm just going to do this twice. So I'll do 2 die rolls at the same time. Normally, if it was a stacked hex, you'd roll 1 die per unit. So if there were 2 Germans here, you'd roll 2 dice. Yeah, 1 hit. Okay. So 1 hit on those guys. So no retreats here. But what Mark just pointed out is I can now bring in these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they can do a regular attack because they have the assault arrow. These guys, you'll note, didn't have the assault arrow. They have the AV, so they're just shooting sort of high explosive into the area, causing that step loss. These guys are now going to do a regular attack. And this is going to be my first, well, that's my first assault by fire. Now it's going to be my first regular attack. And what do we got here? We have a double objective zone, +1. We look here at the... use the action rating of the unit. Take each side action rating independently. And then do a modifier. So we've got the attacker's attack. Oh, geez, this is a tough defense of 4. So the attacker has 2 double objective, moves up to 3. Let's fire my artillery for a suppression for a regular attack. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to assist here. 6. 6, 6, 6, 6. Okay, so we're going to net +6 DRM. Let's just mark that with that. Americans have 6. Germans have 4. The attack must cross hex side terrain. So they're crossing a river. Thanks, Lynn. Appreciate it. Is this a shock attack though? Because it's not an AV capable unit. I think shock attack is, oh no, it's tactical movement allowance, not AV, with assault arrow. Tactical MA unit with assault arrow. Oh, is it though? Let me double check that. I think shock has to be shock attack. Attack capable, that's 5.1k. No shock is by a hard unit. Oh, is it? You can shock attack a hex as many times as you want. A shock attack defending hex must not contain any AV values, that's correct. Costs 3 or less. Shock attack unit must be a single unit, have at least 1 movement point, 1 fire, not be under assault, have a tactical movement allowance, and be shock attack capable on the unit capabilities chart. They are shock attack capable, right? Because they are attack capable. I think they are. I think they can shock attack because of that attack MA and the combination of the red with the attack capable. So I think they can do a shock attack, but I don't know if they want to. What's the advantage of a shock attack? The shock attack. It requires a fire event. Shock attacks can't use assists. They cost a fire event. They don't finish the attacking unit. Oh, so if I do a regular attack, I can do a single regular attack. So I can do a shock attack and then a regular attack to follow it up. Because the idea is they've got tactical movement, they've got their trucks, their armored vehicles, they're moving up quickly, a shock attack, and then they kind of that costs a fire action but doesn't finish them. Then they can do a regular attack, a single regular attack per turn. So if I do that shock attack first, okay? And I won't use the artillery for this because the artillery is more valuable with a regular attack. That shock attack would give me the 2. Yep. Okay, so attacker only 2, double objective zone, 3. I've got an assist, 4. It's a shock attack. Attack by fire. I can't attack by fire with the infantry though. So AV units can attack by fire, but the infantry with the assault value can't. Oh, I've already done that. So the tank unit has already attacked. They've done both their attacks by fire in the one go. Maybe I should have shot it. I can't. Stack must not contain an AV unit or a unit with AV support. I could have done the shock attack with the tank unit. I didn't think of that. I should have done that instead of the attack by fire, maybe. But they cause a step loss at least. They're not under a stop, that's okay. Oh, shock attacks can't use assists as well. Okay, to get the attack by fire modifier, the attack by fire must come from the attack unit itself. So I can't use that attack by fire modifier. I do get the assist though. So 2, 3, 4. Yeah, okay. So I get 4 for the attacker. The defender has 4. 5 for the Hexside terrain, that river. It's not hard. It's not AV. So it's 4 versus 4, basically. No net modifier. Okay. So now we roll on the combat table with no modifier at all. Oh, I don't know why I lost focus there, but there we go. It's a roll of 4. Ouch. That is 2 attacker losses. That was not good for the Americans. I did, I counted the Hexside terrain as the, oh, sorry, it should be +1 for the defender. So it should be 5. So it's a -1 modifier. So it's down to 3. I counted it, but I didn't add it, if that makes sense. So yeah, basically what I'm looking at here is a combat table. They rolled a 4 or less. It's an attacker 2 loss, no retreat, no traffic. It's a terrible result for that shock attack. Now though, they can make their regular attack. And their regular attack is going to be a bit stronger because they're using this artillery. So again, it is 2 double objective zone, 3, 4, 5 for my artillery, 6. So 6 for the Americans. The Germans have 4. Should be the same. 5. So 5 for the Germans. I think no other modifiers apply here. So now for their regular combat, the Americans get a +1 modifier. That was the shock attack. That was for attack MA unit with an assault arrow versus a stack not containing an AV unit. And I didn't use artillery. And yep, that's all good. All right, so here we go. +1 for the regular attack. It's an 8. 9 gives me a conditional A1. So looking at this row here, a conditional A1 if the defender has a prepared defense, otherwise no loss, that's good. Retreat is situational. Retreat 3 hexes. 1, 2, 3, and flip to our move side. We're already on our moved side. If the defender has a prepared defense, nope. And there's a traffic marker, which in this title is a stopped marker. And because that was a combat, we can advance after combat. And because these guys were assisting, they can also advance with the units. And they're all stopped in that hex. So that was the regular combat. So basically what happened here was we had our, to recap, we had our armoured unit advance. They could have done shock combat, but I didn't think about it. So they did 2 fire combats. They caused a step loss. The mechanised infantry then came along. They launched shock combat because they have attack movement with the assault arrow. They suffered 2 losses in that attack. But then they followed up with a regular attack because shock combat doesn't stop you, doesn't finish you. They followed that with regular combat, which was more powerful. They had a +1 modifier, forced a situational retreat, pull these guys back. No step losses, but we've gained a bit of a bridgehead over that river, I guess. Now I can move up my headquarters to there to put those guys in supply, and they are done. And of course that was their second activation, so I need to roll for fatigue, and they're fine. All right, getting a roll on. Starting to get the hang of this. Yep, so fatigue, isolation, second activation, that was their second activation, that's it. That now, we just have 2 camp groups coming in down the bottom. The Americans are all done. We have these 2 down here coming on, but I'm going to leave that for tomorrow. I think, yeah, sorry, that should be removed as well. Getting a handle on it. I want to thank, yeah, Mark and David and Lynn for their help. I really appreciate it. Feels good. It's, yeah, wrapping my head around the system. I kind of brought these guys in, didn't even look at the decent action rating of those defenders. Something to keep an eye on. If you're going to engage in regular combat or shock combat, look at the defender's action rating and consider those other features. That'll come with time. That'll come with experience, I think. So look, partway through the first turn, 2 German camp groups to go. I can tell you what they're going to do. They're going to come charging up here and first of all get rid of this combat train, try and hit the headquarters here, do as much damage as they can. And yeah, capture City Buzid. This is an objective, of course. So maybe there's some options here. There's a couple of these little tracks. This is probably the main one. They're kind of moving across open ground here. It's going to be hard. There's no main road here, or no secondary road, just the tracks. All right, folks, I'll continue this later on. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mark. Thanks, David. Thanks, Lynn. I will hope you're well. Take care.